everyone. Another edition of ROX TV interviews. This time it's Tim Brown from Canadian metal band Striker. It works. Are you ready to go then?
I am ready.
Okay then, let's kick off. So Tim, tell us about Striker. I mean, how would you describe Striker's music?
I've heard it described before as Slayer meets Toto. Sort of, heavy metal, old school heavy metal. But at the same time, we have equal amounts of, thrash, death metal, whatever, as well as, hair metal, rock, stuff like that. So, I mean, both those bands are big influences on us. So, we kind of got a little bit of everything.
That does come through in your music, actually. You can hear a lot of influences. Are you, by any chance, a fan of Dragonforce?
We are fans of Dragonforce.
I thought so, with some of the guitar tones.
Yeah. Well, they certainly helped bring back Ultimate Shred back into the heavy metal life force. So it's and our good friends Unleash the Archers just went on tour with them before the COVID crisis hit.
Talking of COVID, I mean, how did you guys get on? Were you touring? Has it affected you at all?
We had a tour in Europe as well as, well, I guess we had two. We had one in April and then one in festival season, I guess, like right now. And obviously those are both canceled, so, we're pretty sad. But it's understandable. I mean, staying at home is better than dying. But here in Canada, at least in Western Canada where we live, we've been very fortunate. There's not really many cases, very few deaths comparatively. It's been pretty safe. So most of us are, most of us are essential workers. So we've all been working through it anyways, but no one's got sick and everybody's staying healthy.
Good to hear. Very good to hear. You have got some live dates planned for next year, though, in the UK in particular, haven't you? With Dream Evil, is that still on?
You bet.
Great.
As far as we know.
Great, because you're playing literally 10 minutes from our main office.
Oh, nice.
So we will definitely be there.
Excellent.
So you're already on album number 4. I mean, I've been sort of keeping an eye on you because we had the promo for your self-titled 3rd album, which was killer.
Nice.
And Play to Win, I just think is a massive leap forward again. Tell us about the album. I mean, how did recording go?
It went great. Also, just to mention, Play to Win was our 6th album.
6?
Yeah, so we got 2 extra albums hiding somewhere that you haven't heard, I guess.
I need to check them out then. I mean, I went back quite a few years. But you carry on, yeah.
But yeah, we went independent in 2015, so we split ways with our record label, and that's when we put out Stand in the Fire. And Stand in the Fire, the self-titled, and Play to Win are our independent releases, and all 3 of them were basically recorded the same way, in that we recorded, engineered, produced, did all that fun stuff ourselves at our home studio, which is basically just our jam space, and then we sent those off to get mixed and mastered over in Sweden with Fredrik Nordstrom or Henrik Oud, who did the newest one, but they both work together at the same studio in Sweden. But yeah, we just did everything ourselves, and sort of for each album we wanted to improve and learn upon from the mistakes that we made in the previous albums. So we were really excited with Play to Win. We feel like that was our best effort yet, and I think that was the one where we spent the most time really getting into it and really making sure everything was perfect, just because we didn't really have any hard deadlines or anything when we were making it. With the albums before, we had tours and stuff coming up, and we had sort of hard deadlines we had to meet. But with Play to Win, we just kind of, it was a lot easier to put out, and we really just took the time to make sure it was perfect, I guess.
A fine job you did of it too. I mean, the production and the mix is fantastic. I mean, it's proper classic metal sound.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear. To be honest, these days everything seems to be louder than everything else, and
yeah,
you've created the space in between the twin guitars, which sometimes can be difficult. How'd you get on, you pair?
With like I mentioned, Henrik Oud did the mix. He's done a lot of great stuff. I think Bring Me the Horizon springs to mind. Him and Frederick worked on them. They're a big UK act. Architects. Basically every metal band from Europe over the past 20 years, those guys have worked on. So they have some really great sounds for sure when it comes to mixing. And the way that we hooked up with them was we basically just went through our record collection and checked out the production notes, who's mixing it, who's mastering it, and we just contacted several people, and those guys got back to us, and we just started working with them, and we've kept going because we, really like the results. Can't argue with the tones.
Absolutely not. Talking of tones, how do you get your tone? I mean, it is an amazing tone you've got there.
Oh, thanks. We, for Play to Win, we switched from using tube amps to Kemper amp. I'm not sure if you're a guitar player, but it's basically a lunchbox that steals the soul of guitar amps and puts it in itself, and you can just clone your amp, and then it's in the box. So I cloned like all of my guitar amps, and so I've been using a profile I made of my trusty PV5150 for several years. I guess since a couple years. But we when we were making the self-titled album, I had my tube amps all up in the studio, and the one studio we were doing reamping, and the studio just happened to have a Kemper, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to profile your tones just for fun?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Because the studio guy hadn't really used it either yet, and we decided to just test it out. And he said, "Okay, now turn around. We're in the recording booth, and you behind the glass, everything sounds great, but I'm sitting at the booth, and he tells me to turn around, don't look at the screen, so you can't tell which is which." He said, "I'm going to flip back and forth between the Kemper and the actual tube amp, and you tell me which is which." And so we listened to the song, just the guitar, and at the end of the song, I turned around and I said, "You didn't even switch." And so, you can't tell. It's and so that convinced me after that. And I just decided to go out and buy one, and it's made touring a whole lot easier. That's for sure.
They're a lot lighter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard them and tried them as well, and they are amazing pieces of kit. And it's only really the tube kind of purists, isn't it, that say, "Oh, well, you can tell it's not an EL," but it's snobbery at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's a lot of guitar snobbery. I think that goes hand in hand, guitar and snobbery. A lot of cork sniffing.
I have never sniffed a cork.
There you go.
I usually drink the wine without. I never mind sniffing the cork. But
I only sniff beer cans, I guess.
You've won the Juno Award, haven't you, for the best metal album?
Yeah, that's Canada's highest award. I guess it's like the Grammys, but in Canada. So yeah, that was last week. We are very excited and very happy that we're the winners.
Congratulations!
It's another trophy for the pile.
Platinum albums next.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Well, it certainly do your career an awful lot of good. I mean, when you win awards like that, it proves people are liking what you're doing.
Yeah, very much so.
So, any thoughts on a next album, or is it too early?
Yeah, we're sort of always working on new music. We were going to be in the studio actually. We had big plans for 2020, but obviously, everything shut down. We were supposed to be recording in the United States, but I don't even know when the borders to the United States is going to open up again. It's they're having a tough time down there, that's for sure. And so obviously all those plans are sort of out the window. We're sort of just continuing to write music, and hopefully we'll have something out sooner rather than later. But like I said, we're always writing, so we'll have some good tunes, that's for sure. Well, I guess it just allows the songs to seep in and collect more juiciness as time goes on.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I certainly can't wait to hear what you come up with for the next album. What's the rock scene like in Canada now? I mean, what's the big thing at the moment?
Well, I think Canada's always had a pretty decent sort of. It's kind of like a hard folky rock scene. That's Canada has a lot of those types of bands. They sort of mix folk acoustic-y elements with sort of harder rock, and there's a long pedigree of that kind of music. And some bands you maybe know would be like Danko Jones. I think he's pretty well known in Europe. Kim Mitchell, sort of from the 80s, stuff like that. But yeah, the rock scene is doing pretty good. There's lots of Canadian bands that are doing well. Bands like Monster Truck. I think actually we saw them at when we were on tour in the UK with Sonata Arctica. They were playing the same venue we were the next day, and we had a day off, so our tour bus was parked next to them, so we just went and said hi, and then they invited us to our show the next day. But there's lots of good bands. I'd say the only hard part about being in Canada is that it's so big and so far apart and so empty, so it's really hard for bands to sort of get started and get off the ground. In the UK, you can drive for a couple hours and you're in another big city, but in Canada, you can go 12 hours in one direction and there's just nothing. So here in Edmonton, there's one city close by called Calgary, and it's about a 3 to 4 hour drive south. And other than that, you're looking at least 12 hours in any direction if you want to get to another big city.
Ouch. So if you could offer any advice for any new band or new musician coming up at the moment, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say that there's never been an easier time to get into music and releasing your own stuff. In the 80s, you would need to go to a multi-million-dollar recording studio to get good recordings, and I think we've proved pretty concretely that you can just do it yourself. I mean, our last 3 albums were all recorded by ourselves, and especially if you're doing other types of music, it's even easier to mix and master all by yourself at home. You know, you don't really need anything other than a laptop and an interface, and you're good to go. And then on top of that, it's even easier now to release that music. So again, in the 80s or whatever, not only did you need the multi-million-dollar studio, you needed the multi-million-dollar label deal, which you know, is notorious for evil, basically. And nowadays, you know, you can just go online, put your music up on CD Baby, and then it's on every single platform. You know, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on Xbox, everything. So it's never been an easier time to get into it. That being said, there's never been more bands doing it. So the best thing to do is to not only have good music, but you need to find a way to sort of cut through the crowd with I don't know. You need to find a way to connect with people, for sure. You know, whether it's, you know, wearing clown makeup or corpse paint or what, but you got to try and do something different to get those eyeballs on you.
Absolutely, yeah. Sound advice. Thank you very much. We always round off our interviews by doing something that we call Six Appeal, and it's 6 random questions, some sensible, some not very sensible. So here we go. The moon landings, were they faked?
Ooh. I'm going to say no.
Fair enough. What is your shoe size?
I think it's 11.
11?
Right. Yeah.
You know what they say about men with big shoes? They have big socks.
It's true.
What is your favourite band?
Favorite band? That's a tough one. You know, I've probably listened to the most Metallica. I'll say that.
Okay.
The old stuff.
And your most favourite song ever?
Favorite song ever? Ooh, that's tough. I feel like that one changes all the time. I can't even think of something that springs to mind. Although I think on my Spotify they do the year-end review or whatever, and I think my most listened to song for last year was this instrumental artist from LA called Myron, and he it's like this 80s AOR instrumental guitar shred, and there's a song called Exclusive Coupe, and that's a great song. That was like my most listened to song, so let's go with that one.
Okay, I'll check that out actually, thank you. Beer or cider?
I'm definitely going to go with beer.
Good choice. What is your must-have guitar effects pedal?
Well, since I got the Kemper, I've done away with everything, but if we had to narrow it down to one specific kind of pedal, I'd have to say a delay pedal.
Which brand? You can name names.
Ooh, I can name names. Well, the Strymon stuff is top-notch, but I also have Wampler or Wampler. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I have their what is it, tape delay echo. So when I feel the need, I bust out the, you know, full stack tube amp with the delay pedals and all the other pedals I have. But they mostly just sit in the closet now that I got a Kemper.
It's nice to know they're there, though, isn't it, if you want to go old school?
It is. If I want to rumble the house, I can just crank that up. Scare the cat.
Our cat loves it. I mean, the louder the better, especially if you're playing hard thrash. She bounces around like a lunatic.
Yeah, you don't need to brush the cat if you just turn it up loud enough. All the fur will fall off.
That's true. Well, thanks very much, Tim. It's been a great interview, and we wish you all the best for the future. Whenever the new album comes out, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic, and guarantee we'll play it on ROX TV. So thanks,
Awesome.
Tim.
Thank you
Thanks a
very much.
lot. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. Bye. When